Welcome back into the epic battles between Cyttorak versus Trigon. Before we dive deep into the analysis, I just want to say that I sincerely thank you very much. Many people often place Trigon on the scale for comparison with Dormammu, but even if we temporarily accept that assumption, Cyttorak still stands as an entity far beyond Dormammu in terms of power tier. In many circumstances, Cyttorak is even regarded as being on equal footing with, if not outright surpassing, Shuma-Gorath. Shuma-Gorath has always existed as a force towering above numerous infamous names in the Marvel Universe. He outclasses Blackheart, Hela, Satanish, Mephisto, Nightmare, and even iconic symbols of power such as Thanos, Thor, Odin, Galactus, and the Celestials. Even classic-era Doctor Strange is no exception. More importantly, Doctor Strange himself directly stated that Dormammu is nearly insignificant when placed beside Shuma-Gorath in Doctor Strange Volume 6, Issue 3. Power is not measured solely by destructive capability, but also by the scope of existential influence and metaphysical authority. Cyttorak represents a constant of primordial violence, existing beyond conventional divine order. His power does not require loud displays, because the mere act of granting power is enough to warp the balance of the multiverse. When placed alongside Shuma-Gorath, the comparison is not simply about who is stronger. This is an entity that once simultaneously imprisoned Silver Surfer, Nova, Doctor Strange, and even Galactus, the Devourer of Worlds, while all of them were completely helpless before that overwhelming authority. More striking still, Galactus did not merely fail but openly displayed fear, a rare reaction for a being long regarded as the embodiment of universal annihilation. That fear reveals that he was facing something beyond comprehension and control. This entity also effortlessly crushed Colossus in a state of extreme exhilaration, with nothing more than a single thought. At that time, Colossus was amplified by 1/5 of the Phoenix Force, further enhanced by power from Cyttorak, yet all of it was still insufficient to produce any meaningful resistance. That moment exposed an unbridgeable gap between borrowed strength and intrinsic power. This same entity is also the source that empowers Juggernaut, elevating him to a level where even Oblivion struggled to erase him, turning the very concept of destruction into a nearly futile effort. His presence paralyzes the will to resist and bends the logic of power once thought immutable. When cosmic icons fall in unison, the story is no longer about victory or defeat, but about existential helplessness. Galactus's fear reflects an ancient survival instinct before an entity that stands outside the cycle of consumption and rebirth. Oblivion himself demonstrated the limits of his authority when he could not destroy Juggernaut, whether by attempting to age him into decay or by directly erasing his existence into absolute nothingness. In the end, Oblivion was forced to admit that Juggernaut was like a stubborn infection rooted within his own void-like essence, something that could not be completely purged. Faced with that impotence, Oblivion chose to expel Juggernaut from his realm, accepting the trade-off of seizing a portion of Cyttorak's power. This act inadvertently revealed a crucial truth that Cyttorak's influence over Juggernaut's existence runs deeper than even Oblivion's dominion, within the very domain where Oblivion is considered absolute. That is Juggernaut, the one who once overwhelmed Nightmare at the moment when Nightmare was empowered to his extreme within his own realm. At that time, Nightmare had manipulated the entire universe by forcing all sentient beings into sleep, causing eternity to fall into a dreamlike state and be controlled. With cosmic power in hand, Nightmare directed that strength toward the destruction of Earth. Yet, even in a context where the balance of reality itself was distorted, Juggernaut shattered the suppression, demonstrating that his power is not merely physical, but an existential resistance even against entities that manipulate the fabric of the universe. This reinforces Juggernaut's position as an anomaly that even abstract concepts struggle to subdue. Juggernaut once defeated the Stranger with a single punch, a moment sufficient to redefine how people perceive the limits of his strength. The Stranger is not a minor being, but is described as possessing power on par with Watchers such as Uatu, while standing in the same tier as Galactus, Odin, Zeus, and the Celestials at full capacity. Seeing such a being defeated in an instant transformed Juggernaut into a symbol of raw power beyond cosmic norms. Even more noteworthy, this is the same Juggernaut whom Onslaught had to exert his full might to destroy. Onslaught was not merely a psychic or intellectual threat, but a true cosmic catastrophe. He once created a second sun, manipulated the power of Franklin Richards, and confronted Hulk head-on in a state of absolute rage. In that context, the fact that Juggernaut forced Onslaught to pay a heavy price to achieve victory highlights his almost absurd durability and resistance. Juggernaut requires no complex strategy or reality-manipulating power. He embodies unstoppable impact, where every divine or cosmic title becomes fragile upon confrontation. It is precisely this brutally simple nature that makes Juggernaut a living paradox, a storm that needs no reason to destroy. Juggernaut once stood his ground in a direct confrontation with World War Hulk, a period when Hulk's fury was pushed to an unprecedented peak. In that moment, two sources of pure power collided like continental plates, creating the impression that neither side truly yielded. Only when Hulk delivered a terrifying punch powerful enough to send Juggernaut flying from New York all the way to Connecticut was he forced to leave the battlefield, not because he was defeated, but because he was physically removed from the fight. Juggernaut also once clashed with Hulk while serving as a horseman of apocalypse. At that time, Hulk was encased in celestial armor, a form of cosmic protection that significantly enhanced his already extraordinary durability. Even when facing an opponent reinforced by ancient technology and power, Juggernaut maintained a brutal stalemate, showing that his strength comes not only from infinite momentum, but from an almost unbreakable resolve. Juggernaut always stands as an obstacle that cannot be ignored, where every step forward triggers shockwaves far beyond the limits of ordinary battles. Please remember to subscribe to the channel, click the bell icon, and turn on notifications so you can watch the earliest videos. Thank you all very much. Trigon is a demon who exists beyond the boundaries of conventional space and dimensional structure, and he is also one of the most central and persistent threats the Teen Titans have ever faced. He was not born in a natural manner, but was instead crystallized from corrupt energies that were rejected and expelled by the very inhabitants of Azarath. That warped accumulation gave rise to a pure embodiment of evil, and the moment Trigon achieved full consciousness, he returned to slaughter all of Azarath as an act of affirming his destructive nature. Trigon fathered Raven, a child who carries both demonic blood and extraordinary potential. Raven's existence is not merely part of Trigon's legacy, but also the key that connects him to a new universe. When boredom set in after countless conquests, Trigon began to turn his attention toward his daughter's world, not out of familial affection, but from a desire to dominate and impose his own ego. From this point forward, he gradually became the most dangerous antagonist in the history of the Teen Titans, not only because of his overwhelming power, but because he represents a threat of spiritual annihilation, where family bonds are twisted into instruments of invasion and destruction. From the earliest years of his existence, Trigon revealed his monstrous nature. At just 1 year old, he had already completely controlled the planet on which he was born. By the age of 6, Trigon casually destroyed that very world as a declaration of his power. 30 years later, his entire dimension lay fully under his absolute rule. Trigon has fought on equal footing with Mr. MXEZ-PTLK and has been assessed by the Monitor as possessing power comparable to the Spectre. With a single glance, he can erase an entire planet, reducing life to ashes in an instant. These feats become even more terrifying when considering that most of them occurred while Trigon was still very young. Within his own domain, he is even said to surpass an unbound Spectre, because there Trigon is not merely the ruler, but the very law of existence itself. The Anti-Monitor has appeared in an abnormally amplified state. This version does not merely exist at a multiversal level on the 6th plane, but is also fueled by energy drawn from the entire positive multiverse, along with an antimatter universe of equivalent scale. This renders him many times stronger than his standard self. Yet even when Trigon is weakened, he still possesses enough power to stand on equal ground with entities such as Mr. MXI-ZPTLK. This confirms that Trigon is not simply a powerful demon, but a constant of destruction, existing as a direct challenge to every concept of order and limitation of power. Trigon not only broke free from his seal, but also fully merged with the heart of darkness, thereby absorbing the massive evil gathered from nearly 100 galaxies. That moment rebirthed him as a demonic entity with near limitless power. Trigon became a truly unique kind of demon, entirely distinct from traditional demons originating from hell. He is ranked among the most powerful beings in the universe, with strength sufficient to threaten even the essences, the embodiments of fundamental cosmic concepts. Trigon can unleash devastating mystical energy beams from his eyes, and is also a master of mind manipulation, creating complex illusions capable of deceiving even the most experienced entities. As a demon, Trigon is not bound by the aging laws of mortals. He has claimed to have existed since the dawn of time, even before the Big Bang, placing his age at no less than 13.7 billion years. And more frightening still, he has shown no sign of weakening after reaching the height of his power. Physically, Trigon is nearly immune to all conventional forms of damage. Attacks from Superboy, Wonder Girl, or even Bunkers-like constructs are entirely meaningless. Superboy once described the sensation of striking Trigon as no different from trying to destroy a mountain with a spoon. Nevertheless, rare exceptions do exist, as Trigon's skin was once pierced by the specially sharpened glider of Red Robin. Trigon's magic is an ocean of power that he can wield for countless effects, ranging from destruction to manipulation of the fabric of reality itself. That power is also passed down to his offspring, giving rise to unique traits such as Raven's empathic abilities and many of her other powers. Trigon is also infamous for using chaos magic, a highly unpredictable and extremely dangerous form of energy. He can even enchant an object with alluring spells potent enough to tempt even high-level demons. Trigon is not merely a mighty demon, but an existential catastrophe, where power, age, and malevolent nature merge into a being that defies all cosmic order. Cyttorak and Trigon both stand at the pinnacle of the cosmic power scale, each representing an extreme of destruction and domination within their own respective realms. Cyttorak is revered as a god of creation and destruction, intrinsically linked to the Crimson Gem of Cyttorak, an entity that exists beyond conventional concepts of magic and divinity. Trigon, as the demon lord of DC, is likewise an embodiment of pure evil, a being who has subjugated countless dimensions and spread terror across every reality he has set foot in. However, when these two entities are placed on the same scale, Cyttorak is often regarded as having the edge in terms of fundamental power. This stems from the fact that he clearly surpasses Marvel's foremost hellish entities, such as Dormammu and Mephisto. These very beings have repeatedly acknowledged Cyttorak's overwhelming power, viewing him as a force that even their cunning and infernal authority cannot shake. Cyttorak does not rule through strength alone, but also through absolute influence over those who draw power from him, most notably Juggernaut, an anomaly that even abstract concepts like Oblivion struggle to erase. Trigon, despite his immense might, still reveals certain limitations within the DC cosmic framework. He can be countered or defeated by higher-tier entities, those who represent cosmic order and balance. This does not diminish Trigon's terror, but it demonstrates that his power is more confrontational and conquest-driven rather than absolute. When examined more deeply, Cyttorak emerges as a constant of power, an undeniable foundation of strength, while Trigon is a violent storm of destruction that remains subject to greater overarching laws. Cyttorak wins. What do you think about this battle? Please let me know your thoughts in the comments. Thank you all very much.